Good evening, visitors. Welcome to the Australian War Memorial's last post ceremony. My name is Craig Burrell, and joining us today from the Australian Army Band Corps is Warrant Officer Class 2, Joanne Davey. We welcome the veterans who have served, those that are still serving, and the families that support them. We acknowledge the members of RSL and Services Clubs Association, RSL Victoria and RSL Queensland, who are watching the broadcast of this ceremony around Australia. During this evening's ceremony, wreaths will be laid at the base of the Pool of Reflection by visitors to the memorial. Please stand and join in singing the National Anthem. Please sit. The Australian War Memorial was the vision of Charles Bean, Australia's First World War official historian. Bean landed with the Australian troops on Gallipoli and stayed with them at the front through to the end of the war. The idea of this national memorial and museum came to him at Pozières, France, in the depths of the bloody fighting of 1916. Bean's idea was that this would be a place where families and friends could mourn their loved ones buried in faraway places. It would also be a place that could help all Australians understand what these men and women had endured and what they had done for us. Bean's vision, to which we remain true, is best expressed as inscribed in the entrance to the memorial's galleries. Here is their spirit in the heart of the land they loved, and here we guard the record which they themselves made. Tonight, we will read the story behind just one of those on the Roll of Honour, which lists more than 102,000 men and women who have given their lives for us in war and other operations for more than a century. But first, we present a lament, Flowers of the Forest. Wreaths or floral tributes will now be laid at the base of the Pool of Reflection.
Today we remember and pay tribute to leading seaman Alexander Kemp of the Royal Australian Navy. Alexander Kemp was born in Dundee, Scotland, to William and Elizabeth Kemp on the 21st of February 1912. His parents brought Alexander and his three brothers to Australia in 1921. They settled in New South Wales, and Alexander grew up to work with shoes. In 1936, he married Muriel Godfrey, who was also a member of the Royal Australian Naval Reserve. Kemp reported for active duty in September 1939, following the outbreak of war, and was posted to HMAS Guringai. This vessel had been a fishing trawler in peacetime, but when the war started was taken over by the Navy Board and fitted out for minesweeping. Kemp was one of a number of Scottish migrants on board, including Captain David McGregor, who had been born in Banffshire and had captained Guringai in peacetime. McGregor remained captain of the Guringai after her refit and was given the rank of warrant officer. In early November 1940, a British ship and an American freighter were lost in quick succession to German mine-laying operations in Bass Strait. HMAS Guringai was one of a number of minesweepers sent to locate and destroy the minefields. After 2 weeks on that operation, the minesweeper started to return to Queenscliff, but a rising storm sent the ship to Portsea, which was a safer harbour. As the Guringai passed through the dangerous rip at the mouth of Port Phillip Bay in the darkness, she was hit by an outbound merchant ship and torn almost in half. A crewman on the ship that hit the Guringai reported, "In the short time it took me to run along the promenade deck to the rail by the bridge, the Guringai had disappeared. There was not a sound but the crash of water." Some eyewitnesses heard men calling for help, but could do little for them. Flotation devices were thrown out into the darkness and lifeboats were deployed immediately, but despite a long search, no survivors or bodies were found. The minesweeper had sunk almost immediately, with all hands still on board. HMAS Guringai was the first vessel of the Royal Australian Navy to be lost in the Second World War, and the first Royal Australian Navy surface vessel to be lost in wartime. Over the following weeks, diving operations recovered the bodies of 5 of the crew. The remaining 19 bodies, including that of Alexander Kemp, were never recovered, and the wreck of the minesweeper was blown up to clear the channel. In a notice in the newspaper a year after his death, Kemp's widowed Muriel wrote, "When last I saw your smiling face, you looked so happy and well. I little knew that day it was our last farewell. No one knows the bitter pain of that farewell." The names of Alexander Kemp and the crew of the HMAS Guringai are listed on the Roll of Honour on my left, along with more than 40,000 others from the Second World War. This is but one of the many stories of courage and sacrifice told here at the Australian War Memorial. We now remember leading seaman Alexander Kemp, who gave his life for us, for our freedoms, and in the hope of a better world.
Please stand for the ode and the sounding of the last post.
They have no grave but the cruel sea. No flowers lay at their head. A rusting hulk is their tombstone, a fast on the ocean bed. They shall grow not old as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun and in the morning we will remember them. Lest we forget.
Lest we forget. We leave you this evening with the words of the memorial's founder, Charles Bean. Many a man lying out there at Pozieres or in the low scrub at Gallipoli with his poor, tired senses barely working through the fever of his brain has thought in his last moments, well, it's over. But in Australia, they will be proud of this. Ladies and gentlemen, that concludes the last post ceremony. Thank you for visiting the Australian War Memorial and good evening.